I've always believed that the most valuable things in this world make the least amount of noise. In my line of work, silence is not a preference, it is a necessity. As a master conservator of ancient manuscripts and historical artifacts, my days are spent in quiet, climate-controlled rooms, handling delicate pages that have survived centuries of human chaos. I restore what time has slowly eroded, working with surgical precision, endless patience, and a deep focus that leaves no room for distraction. My wife, Sophia, lives in a different universe. She is a senior partner at a high-stakes corporate consulting firm, a world defined by aggressive metrics, loud declarations of success, and relentless energy. Despite our vastly different daily routines, our marriage has always been a sanctuary of mutual respect and quiet understanding. Tonight, I stepped out of my sanctuary and into her world, a glittering gala hosted by her firm downtown. Sophia had gently coaxed me into attending. She knew these events drained my energy, but tonight was an important milestone for her career, and I wanted to support her. As we walked through the grand glass foyer, the atmosphere was thick with corporate ambition. Everyone here seemed to be performing, wearing their achievements like heavy gold armor. Sophia looked absolutely breathtaking in a sleek blue gown. I held her hand, offering a steady, quiet presence amidst the swirling storm of networking and superficial small talk. Standing near a towering sculpture, Sophia's division director, Richard Vance, approached us. Richard was a man who commanded attention not through intellect, but through sheer volume and physical presence. He was tall, tailored, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never been forced to question his own importance. Known as a strategist, he viewed modesty as a design flaw. He barely acknowledged Sophia, sizing up my simple suit and relaxed posture. He was used to people eager to impress him. I offered no validation, greeting him with a calm handshake. "Ah, Thomas, the mysterious husband," Richard said, his voice carrying over the ambient jazz music. "Sophia tells us you spend your days locked away with old books. I must admit, I find that fascinating. In our world, if you aren't moving forward at lightning speed, you're practically invisible. How do you manage to stay motivated when your work belongs entirely to the past?" Sophia's colleagues paused, waiting for my response. Her hand tightened on my arm, a natural instinct to protect me. I took a slow sip of my drink, letting the silence stretch until Richard shifted. I didn't rush to defend myself. When the silence had done its work, I spoke softly. "The past has a funny way of outlasting the present, Richard," I replied. "My work isn't about hiding from the world. It's about preservation. When you work with things that have survived wars, natural disasters, and the collapse of entire empires, you develop a deep appreciation for what actually lasts. Most of the loud, flashing things we build today will be dust in a century. I simply focus on the things that endure." Richard's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. He wasn't used to people speaking to him with such effortless composure, especially someone he had already categorized as unimportant. He chuckled, a dry sound. "An interesting philosophy, Thomas, but in the real world of quarterly growth, we don't have the luxury of waiting a century to see if we survive. Power belongs to those who make things happen, right here, right now. Quiet contemplation doesn't pay the bills." The circle of onlookers grew. Richard wanted to show everyone that I was out of my depth, but he was playing a simple game, and I had already mapped out the board. "There is a difference between motion and progress," I said, my voice remaining calm and steady. "A wheel spinning in the mud makes a great deal of noise and flings dirt, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. True strength isn't about demanding attention or dominating. It's about having a foundation so solid that you don't need anyone else's validation to know you're standing upright. The loudest person is often the most fragile because their entire sense of worth depends on the applause of people who don't truly care about them." A profound quiet fell over our circle. Richard stared at me, his face flushing. He opened his mouth to retort, but found no foothold. I had simply laid out a truth that exposed the emptiness of his posturing. Looking at his colleagues, he realized his attempt to humiliate me had backfired, highlighting his own insecurity. Sophia looked up at me, her eyes shining with immense pride. A managing partner quickly changed the subject. Richard slipped away, murmuring about a fresh drink. He didn't look back. For the rest of the evening, the tone shifted. People who had ignored me now approached with genuine curiosity, realizing my quietness was not a lack of confidence, but the reserve of someone who only speaks when they have something valuable to say. When we finally walked out of the museum and into the cool night air, the city skyline stretched before us like a grid of sparkling diamonds. Sophia slid her arm through mine as we walked toward our car. "You were incredible tonight, Thomas," she said softly, her voice filled with genuine emotion. "I knew Richard would try to push your buttons, but you completely disarmed him without even raising your voice." I smiled gently and pulled her closer. "I didn't do it to humiliate him, Sophia," I said. "I just wanted him to understand that silence isn't a void waiting to be filled. It's a position of strength. We don't need to shout to prove our existence." Sophia rested her head against my shoulder as we drove home through the quiet streets. The cabin was a peaceful space, a stark contrast to the gala. I realized that the lesson of that night was a reminder for all of us. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention, urging us to scream louder and climb faster for public approval. Yet there is an indestructible power in knowing your own value. When you do not require the world's validation, you gain a rare kind of freedom. You no longer participate in the noisy competitions of ego and status. You simply stand firm in your truth, letting your character speak for itself. Back home, a deep peace washed over me. What truly mattered was authenticity, the love we shared, and the understanding that the quietest voices carry the most enduring power.